No, listen, I'm telling you, I can do the sound. Okay, fine. You want proof? You want me to do it right here, right now? Okay, no, shh. No, you shush yourself. Just a second. Ahem. Okay. Oh. Huh? Okay, fine. You think you're so talented? I'd like to hear you do the Tarzan yell. Show off. Yeah, whatever. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and welcome back to another episode of The Great Movie Marathon, a 12-week celebration of movies where sometimes the word great is used a little too liberally. This week we're talking about Tarzan. Nope, not that one. Ha! I wish. No, this week was all about the 1930s Tarzan films. Just roll the clip. We are now entering the jungle home of one of the most memorable movie characters of all time. Okay, no, wait, hold up. Stop the clip. Why am I seeing dead people? Right. I always forget about this part of the ride because it was so forgettable. So, pretty much in between the Indiana Jones scene and the Tarzan scene, there was a really short hallway that was all dedicated to horror movies, where your tour guide basically said, "Horror movies existed, but we have none to show you because they're all owned by Universal. Please don't go there. Moving on. We are now entering the jungle home of one of the most memorable movie characters of all time. No, it's not George of the Jungle. Actually, it's Tarzan, portrayed here by Johnny Weissmuller. Over there, we have Maureen O'Sullivan as Jane, and the lovely and talented Cheeta as herself." Great movie ride fun fact. I actually have no bleeping idea why this scene was in the Great Movie Ride. I mean, the other movies I can understand. Maybe they weren't the greatest, but they were representative of some kind of genre. But Tarzan? Without Phil Collins? Really? Okay, seriously, I did actually consider skipping this movie altogether. Not because I didn't enjoy it. I mean, actually, I didn't enjoy it. But because Tarzan and His Mate is so bleepin' hard to find if you're a Canadian. It's not available to stream. It's not available to rent. If you want to watch the DVD, you have to shell out like over $100 on eBay. So, suffice it to say, I did not watch Tarzan and His Mate. Instead, I opted to watch the original Tarzan film, Tarzan the Ape Man from 1932, which I still think counts. It's the first time we had this famous trio on screen. Johnny Weissmuller as Tarzan, Maureen O'Sullivan as Jane, and a myriad of chimps pretending to be Cheetah as herself. Like, they always credited it as being the same chimp, Cheetah, playing herself, but we all had goldfish as children. We know what game they were playing. Okay, no, this is the thing. Tarzan the Ape Man isn't a bad movie. I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but it's not a bad movie. There are some great scenes, like the Me, Tarzan, You, Jane scene. That was cool, but what I find the most fascinating about this film is that this is the movie that gave us the Tarzan yell. You all know the sound I'm talking about. That sound. This has become one of the most famous sounds in all of film history. This sound is synonymous with Tarzan. They recycled this specific soundbite for countless Tarzan movies because it was the sound. And this original sound is fascinating for a couple of reasons. The first being that it is a shockingly difficult sound to make. Everybody thinks they can do the Tarzan sound, but very few people can actually do the Tarzan sound. I mean, it's one thing to like hit the notes, just go, ah, but to do it properly, that requires like a fully supported belt. You have to have the vocal power behind it. You have to hit those very specific pitch variants. It's kind of like belting a high note mixed with a yodel. They're very specific vocal skills that not a lot of people can pull off. I would say the only person who's proven that they can do this sound consistently is Carol Burnett. I actually think actors could get away with listing the Tarzan sound as a special skill on their resume because people underestimate how difficult it actually is to make that sound. Today I want to talk about the thing that I find most fascinating about the Tarzan sound, which is that original sound bite. Let's play it again. There is an ongoing debate and a lot of controversy surrounding this specific soundbite. Because even though this is relatively recent history, I mean, Tarzan the Ape Man was made in 1932. Comparatively, that wasn't too long ago. We have records of things, but there is no record and official account as to who or what produced this sound. But based on my labor-intensive Wikipedia research, there appear to be 3 possible sources, which I'm going to tell you right now. The first and most obvious source is that the yell was created and performed by Tarzan himself, Johnny Weissmuller. Johnny Weissmuller was an Olympic swimmer. He won 5 gold medals, and he was the most famous, and still is, the most famous on-screen Tarzan. He played the role over 12 times, and he insisted throughout his life that that yell was 100% him. By all reports, his origin story changed with every telling, except the one that he usually came back to was that the sound was inspired by the yodeling of his German neighbors. I've also read that he said the sound was inspired by his Austrian parents and their heritage and growing up around yodeling. It always came back to yodeling. Now, whether or not that original soundbite was 100% Johnny Weissmuller is still up for debate, but he did admit that the soundbite was recycled from film to film in an effort to save his voice. Maureen O'Sullivan went on record and said that without a doubt that sound was 100% produced by Johnny, and of course, she was there, so we can't really take that with a grain of salt. And Johnny did perform the Tarzan call in person at events and on talk shows over the years, so if it wasn't originally him, we know that he did learn to do it. Personally, I'm not convinced that the original sound was produced by Johnny, especially when you hear him do the Tarzan call in later films. So he obviously could do the Tarzan sound, but I'm not convinced that that's his voice on the classic recording. Just when you compare the two, and I'm not enough of a voice and speech expert to accurately break it down and make this assessment, but just to my ears, I think there's a noticeable difference in the timbre, and I think there's a different quality to the resonance of his voice versus the classic recording. Which brings me to possibility number 2 for the source of this famous soundbite, that it was somebody else. This is one of those classic Hollywood legends where there are multiple candidates for the real voice of Tarzan, but the one that I find the most interesting is the case to be made for opera singer Lloyd Thomas Leech. In fact, if you go through some other YouTube videos dedicated to the histories and the mysteries surrounding the Tarzan yell, a lot of the videos have actually been commented on by one of Leech's grandchildren, where she shares an article just looking to share her grandfather's account of being the secret voice of Tarzan. Now, I'm not going to get into the full details of the Lloyd Thomas Leech story because I highly recommend that you read the article and his account for yourself, but the basic gist is that he was in high school when Tarzan the Ape Man was in post-production. Anyway, somebody from MGM ended up doing a talk at Lloyd Thomas Leech's high school and just talking about the film and hyping it up, saying it was going to be released within the next year. Lloyd Thomas Leech went up to him after the talk and said, "What's Tarzan's yell going to sound like? Because I haven't liked what I've heard from other Tarzan movies so far. In my mind, it sounds like this." And then he did the sound. The MGM guy said, "Kid, that's pretty darn good. Let's go find a recording studio right here, right now, and get you to lay down some track for me." So he ended up spending about an hour just making sounds. The guy from MGM packed it up, took it back to Hollywood, and then a couple months later, Lloyd Thomas Leech got a letter from MGM saying, here is $1,000, we used your voice, you are the voice of Tarzan, congratulations. He ended up going to the premiere, sitting next to Johnny Weissmuller, and then after the premiere, Weissmuller said, can you teach me how to do the sound? He did, and the rest is history. So much like everything surrounding the mystery of the Tarzan yell, there's really no evidence to go off of with this beyond one person's testimony. But I'm a little bit more inclined to believe this as being fact when you take into account the third possible source of the Tarzan yell, which is that it was manufactured by sound engineers. And I mean, that's what it is. Like, it hasn't been proven, but I mean, come on, that is clearly what this sound is. It was 100% created by sound engineers. How do I know? Because this is too perfect of a sound for any living creature to produce unaltered. There is still a lot of question as to the auditory elements that went into building this sound, but I don't think there's any question that the Tarzan yell was created by sound engineers. If you only need one bit of evidence, just look at the fact that it is a perfect auditory palindrome. It sounds identical when it's played forwards and backwards. And that just goes to show you that this was a sound that was engineered. And we know that that's something that they did on the Tarzan movies, because Maureen O'Sullivan, as Jane, had her own adorable little Tarzan call, and she confirmed that it was a sound that was created. Granted, hers is a little bit more obvious. So I'm personally just accepting as fact that the Tarzan yell was made by sound people. But what I find super fascinating are all the theories about how they created the sound. Because just like everything else, there is a lot up for debate as to the different components that created the Tarzan yell. The ingredients, if you will, the sound ingredients that are generally accepted as creating this sound are a hyena, a soprano, a dog growl, and a G-string, get your mind out of the gutter, on a violin. If I were a more talented sound engineer, I would do something really cool now where I take all those sounds and try to like mix them together to make my own Tarzan sound, but I'm not that good. And lucky for me, that video already exists on the internet. I'm going to link it for you in the description down below. It is super cool. So it's just a candid bit of footage that was taken from a Turner Classic movie screening of Tarzan and his mate. Lucky them, they were able to get their hands on a copy. But Hollywood sound guy Ben Burt did exactly that. He decided to put the rumors to rest by taking all of the elements that were rumored to create the Tarzan yell, and he made his own Tarzan yell. I'm not going to play it for you here because you should check out the video. It is super cool, but trust me when I say that what he creates is almost identical. So in the end, who do we believe? I don't know. The reason I find the Tarzan soundbite so fascinating is because there are reputable people backing up every possible origin story for this sound. If you ask me, I'm personally of the opinion that it was engineered by the sound department at MGM using a male voice as the foundation. Whether or not that was Johnny Weissmuller, I'm not sure. I'm more inclined to believe that it was a separate male voice. Whether that was Lloyd Thomas Leech or someone else is yet to be seen, but that's what I think. So, am I calling Johnny Weissmuller a liar? No, not at all. I am calling him an actor. Now keep in mind that this was somebody who basically built his career in Hollywood on that one role. And this was a time before social media where there was a lot more work being put in by actors and by studios to maintain professional illusions. You know, these are the people who didn't want anyone to know that Marnie Nixon was singing for Deborah Kerr in The King and I. These are the people that didn't want to, anyone to know that Hayley Mills had a stand-in in The Parent Trap and they didn't just clone her or whatever. These are the people who wanted everyone to believe that Johnny Weissmuller was the full package when it came to Tarzan. He could swing on the vine, he could do the swimming, and he could make the sound. But the beauty of it is that really at the end of the day, we're never going to know. And I think that's kind of cool. But anyway, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup for One. Now let me know in the comment section down below, who do you think created the Tarzan yell? Whose story do you believe? And if you want to be the first to know when I upload more videos for the Great Movie Marathon, or just when I upload videos in general, they're usually about Disney, Shakespeare, Funkos, and sometimes cats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. If you haven't subscribed already, it's super easy. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the Teacup for One. Ah.